All right, so welcome to the Creoate webinar. My name is Will. I am the CMO of Creoate. It is my pleasure to welcome you. For those of you that this is their first webinar, this is a series of webinars that we are doing to help both retailers and wholesalers kind of connect and get a little bit more insight as to what the industry is doing currently and how to best embrace it and how we can support you. For those of you that this is the first time, maybe you're asking yourself, what is Creoate? Creoate is a very interesting proposition. We are here to help independent businesses thrive. We connect wholesaler with independent retailers, and we, more than a transactional marketplace, we're more of a community that try to empower both sides of the equation. So we're very lucky to have a very active community of wholesalers, independent wholesalers with very unique items, as well as independent retailers that have unique stores that are in your local town or high street that really empower this small business economy. So with that, I would like to introduce you to the host of the webinar, my lovely colleague, Hannah.
Thank you so much, Will. Hi, everyone. As Will said, my name is Hannah. I work in the content team here at Creoate. But honestly, my objective for the rest of this event is for you to hear as little as possible from me, and instead as much as possible from our wonderful, very wise panel of 5 great guests that we have for you today. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to each of them to introduce themselves briefly. So Therese, would you mind kicking us off with that?
No, that's fine. Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here. Thank you for having me. I have a business called Small Business Collaborative, and I have a background in sales. And back in 2018, I set up my own business, and now I help small businesses start and grow their wholesale. So not necessarily doing the selling for you, but I help you with your margins, your sales material, how to sell, how to approach people, and get more customers for your products.
Awesome. And then on to Jack.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's lovely to be here. So I, with my partner Laura, run Paper Plane, and we started out selling cards in late 2014, and then we did some more cards, and then ended up doing lots of cards, and eventually branched out into various gifts and homeware, and now we have a big range of natural and vegan bath and body products, which are doing really well for us, and we're really happy with, and we sell them on Creoate.
Awesome, thank you so much. And Hannah?
Hi everybody, so yes, I'm Hannah, I'm from the home county Candle Co. We're based in Buckinghamshire, and we hand for sort of sustainable luxury home fragrance products, so soy candles, reed diffusers and hand care products, which are each named after a different county in the UK. And we try and tie the scent back to that county so that each one tells a bit of a story. And yes, we sell on Creoate, and you can find our products in retailers like English Heritage sites, National Trust sites, Notcuts garden centres throughout the country, and lots of lovely independent stores in the UK and the US.
Lovely, thanks so much, Hannah. Over to Jay joining us from LA today.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, so my name is Jay Chung. I currently operate in LA. I run a wholesale marketing agency in Fashion District in downtown Los Angeles. I currently work with various lines like Shop Michella, President of Love, and Sunday Morning, Apple Tree. My background is woman clothing wholesale. I was a sales rep for about 8 years before I launched this company during COVID. Creoate, we actually been very pleasant with the amount of traffic that we've been receiving at Creoate. And we hope to see this relationship go as far as we could. And I'm really looking forward to signing up more and more lines on Creoate so we could get this party started. Really. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. We didn't even ask you to say that, so that was great. And then last but not least, Alice.
Hi everyone, and also from the brand partnerships team, thank you everyone for attending the webinar. I'm Alice, and indeed I'm part of the brand partnerships team at Creoate, and more specifically I focus on the acquisition side of the business. So we handle everything that is related to sourcing, scouting, and onboarding new brands on the platform. I've been the first full-time hire at Creoate, and in over 2 years at Creoate, I've onboarded more than 5,000 brands. Some of you are also on the call. We've been in touch via email. So it's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you, Alice. So without further ado, let's move on to our first topic today. And this is to discuss simply which products and categories are trending right now. So what products are flying off the shelves. And Alice, I'd actually love to come to you first for that one to tell us what you're seeing from the Creoate side.
Okay, that's a very interesting question. Everyone always asks me, oh, what products do you sell the most on Creoate, both internally in the company and also people outside the company. Just to give you an idea, on Creoate, we have more than 300 product categories and more than 200,000 SKUs. So there is quite some competition. When we look at the best selling product categories, because we cover different lifestyle categories and a lot of products have a different price point, we do two different types of analysis. One is revenue generated, so which products category bring the most money, let's say, and the second one is which product categories sell the most in terms of volumes. I'm not going to disclose the best one in terms of revenue generated. I will share it at the end of the webinar. So if you guys are curious, stay until the end of the webinar. While in terms of best-selling product categories per volume, over the past 3 months, the first one has been greeting cards. And just to give you an idea, over the last year, we sold more than 35,000 greeting cards. So it's quite an astonishing number. Coming second, it's being hanging decoration. This is a very seasonal product because, yeah, we just finished basically the Christmas period. And as you can imagine, hanging decoration was a very popular category for Christmas. While the third one is scented candles. This is also something that is quite on trend with, like following the pandemic, people spend more time at home, so they also spend more money in order to make and decorate the house better. And when it comes to scented candles, just to give you an idea, over the last year we've sold more than 25,000 units of scented candles.
Awesome, thanks so much. And Therese, how does that line up with what you're seeing in terms of demand from retail?
I mean, I think it's pretty similar in terms of what brands are popping up to. And I think that all these things can feed into a lot of the trends quite easily. Even if those brands are not necessarily trend-led, they can kind of fit into lots of different pockets, whether it is, made in the UK or sustainable, or if it's more, of the colors they use in their designs and packaging and stuff. So I think those product categories does well because they can fit into so many different trends and stories in stores.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jack, how about you? What are you seeing from Paper Plane? You mentioned bath products.
Yeah, so that's we did that just to test the water, really, because we figured we could translate some of the things we've learned from designing cards into designing packaging, and natural and vegan skincare and bath products seem to be something that we were becoming more aware of and we were keen to sell. And we felt that we could do them in a way that was slightly different, because a lot of them maybe have a more kind of natural feel to them in terms of the way they're designed. They have kind of earthy, natural feel, and we thought we could add some colour and a bit of humour to them. And that's really seems to have taken off, and it seems to have tapped into the fact that people are very conscious of wanting things that are natural, that are biodegradable, that are, you know, eco products. People have become very aware of the damage that plastics, single-use plastics, can use, and that you know, that chemicals can do to your skin. So I think we've just come back from the Top Drawer trade show, and the question most people are asking us are, well, you know, are these natural? Do they have palm oil? People or buyers particularly, are very aware of things like that, and I think that's probably a category that will just continue to rise. Yeah, so we're going to try and make more things.
Absolutely, that's really interesting that, yeah, it's coming down obviously at every level, that interest in eco-friendliness and sustainability. Moving on, I wanted to talk next about what's trending in terms of behaviours and experiences. So in terms of the way people like to shop and what they're expecting from their shopping experience. I wondered, Jay, I can see you nodding along. Do you have any insight into this from obviously fashion super fast paced, and what are you finding from the US and fashion side?
So currently, fast fashion in US, the market itself has been sinking pretty deep right now. We are in it's pretty much the worst we've seen. We don't understand if this is because of the inflation, or a lot of people have a lot of opinions and their own thoughts, but we believe the market itself is the retail behavior part of the experiences. I mean, I can't speak for any other categories or other markets, but in fast fashion, the retail side of the retailers are usually wanting better customer services and wanting to see more products and more different kinds of lines at there. So we would like to introduce more lines to them and have them carry different type of product. The eco-friendly part, I definitely agree. The fast fashion do see a lot of eco-friendly products coming out, and yeah, I think that's something that we could be looking forward to.
Yeah, that's really interesting, that intersection of bringing fast fashion and eco-friendliness together. Hannah, how about you? What have you seen from on the home county candle side?
So we've definitely noticed a return or more of a focus on British made or locally made, locally sourced products. So I think it's sort of like there's a two-pronged approach to it. There's the practical side of it. So with delays just in shipping and importing since Brexit and fees going up, Brexit and COVID actually just having long delays on things that you're importing, those British made products are actually quicker to source, and with the costs going up so much as well, we found that being a British manufacturer, we've actually been able to ship much more quickly, so it ticks that box, as well as now much more competitively. I think before, when people wanted British made quality, they knew that they didn't have to, but there'd be a surcharge for it, and you'd be able to import things cheaper if you didn't mind about the quality. Whereas now, with cost of imports going up so much, we've definitely found that our quality is still as good, but we're much more competitive, which has been great. Actually, it's just made it nicer to be a higher quality brand without retailers having to pay much more for them. And yeah, I just think as well, we're seeing retailers and retailers' customers about that supply chain, where things are coming from, are they local, and also the sustainability element. If you're not having to import things and get things flown over, your carbon footprint's much better. So I think it's great all round for people who are making locally, and so yeah, it's been great for us.
Great, that's lovely to hear. And Jack, that seems to really tie in with what you were saying about eco-friendliness.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more with what Hannah said. People are definitely as aware of things being eco-friendly as they are local, because they tie in. You know, people are aware of the miles involved in transporting things. So people are definitely asking us, you know, is this UK made? And I think it's the local works on a lot of different levels. So it works on, is it local as in was it made in the UK? Is it local as in, you know, to our county? And people even want to stock things made by extremely local makers. So, you know, if you are a maker and there's a shop in your town or village or city that's near you, you're far more likely to be stocked by them, you know, I think, than someone doing a similar thing to you at the other end of the country. And I think that's because they know that people like to buy local from the shop.
Yeah, 100%. I've heard that anecdotally as well, that kind of hyper locality focus. Therese, how about you? Is there anything else you'd add to that?
No, I think it's pretty similar actually, but I do think that the reasons why it's so important for the retailers to have smaller brands and brands with the stories, because they need to give their customers a reason to come into store versus online. So they need brands with a story that can start those conversations, because that's the only way they can kind of set themselves apart from range, right? It's so easy and accessible to shop online. So they need to be able to give a little bit more, I think, in store as an experience. And I think that brands with a story makes it easy to do that. So, you know, just to provide more actual human customer service. And make it all much more enjoyable, I suppose. So, and I do think that, like Hannah said, like, yes, UK made in the UK brands have become more competitive, but I also think that the consumer has started to realize that it's somewhat more willing to pay a premium for a experience and for the actual quality and for the story and values of the brands that they're buying. And I think the pandemic kind of amplified it and accelerated it to be like that quicker than it would have been if we didn't have the pandemic. So I think it's positive for all the sort of brands that you represent on Creoate.
Yeah, if I can, it just made me think that I think because of the pandemic and people feeling a bit, particularly during the first lockdown, but I think it's carried on, people feeling a bit isolated and, you know, fed up with the situation, and also having more money than they would because they weren't able to go out and spend it, they weren't able to go on holiday. Self purchases of luxury items definitely, you know, improved, and I would imagine. So we saw that with skincare, people wanting to pamper themselves, and I would think that any home interiors and candles, I'm sure Hannah would tell us that you know, people just wanted to be surrounded by nice things in their home, and I think that's probably a trend that will continue, because once you've got used to that, it's going to be hard to start, you know, accepting less for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely noticed that too. So I think it was touched on earlier when you said that you'd sold 25,000 units of candles. It was the wanting your home to be nice, but also being home for so many more hours of the day. So people were burning candles where they used to burn candles for a few hours of an evening. Suddenly you had people sat at their home office burning candles pretty much all day. We don't recommend it. It's you're supposed to burn them and then blow them out. But yes, it's definitely that feeling of like making your home a sanctuary. And I think that has actually carried on. I'm the same, even though we're not in lockdown anymore. You don't return to your pre-pandemic purchases. I think you still look after yourself, so it's great.
Yeah, you can see me nodding along to that conversation because I was thinking of my own spending patterns in the pandemic, and yeah, a lot of candle burning. Great, that brings me on really nicely to our next topic. So obviously this whole event is about retail trends, but actually a question I find really interesting is, when should you actually be paying attention to trends and when should you be doing something different and kind of going against the grain? So Therese, maybe I could come back to you to start this off. How do you advise your customers on this?
I I think it's really important to keep up with what's on trend, even if you don't consider yourself being a trend-led business. I think that you need to know what your retailers are likely to be looking for. Like throughout my career, that I saw most of the time I've been selling products to the retailers that wouldn't typically stock that kind of products, and the only way to do that is to know what is going to be the themes in the stores that's next season. So even if you're not on trend or trend led, you can sell into a more maybe like lagom, like kind of that balance of things is really like one thing that is kind of on trend. So, you know, Hannah could, even if it's not, you know, something that you have produced products for, you can say that candles are really mindful and that would fit into this kind of theme if you're doing anything like that in store. So you can sell into trends without being a product that is typically for that trend. And that's how I think you can get your products into retailers that is maybe outside the box too, that doesn't, you know, maybe Hannah said, for example, that she sells to lots of garden centers, but something different to a garden center that maybe traditionally haven't stocked candles, but could do really well with candles. I mean, candles is pretty universal now, so that was maybe a bad example, but, you know, I think that you can broaden your customer base a lot by knowing what is happening with the trends and sort of help advise your buyers, because they do rely on you for a lot of things. You know, they don't have the time to do all their own research, so it's a conversation, and the more you can have a conversation and help each other, the more you can build that relationship too.
Yeah, absolutely. Hannah, how does that line up with your experience? So I think you're a great example of as Teresa said, a product that's really popular, but that you've obviously managed to pitch in a slightly different way.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what, that has been actually an interesting, so when we explain what we do to the end consumer, they often it often clicks, I'll be honest, quicker than it does sometimes if we describe what we do to a retailer, because retailers always have to think, are my customers gonna get that, and how's it gonna relate?
Hannah, maybe just pop your
customer,
camera.
but really interesting. We do lots of trade shows and we talk to lots of retail handles. Perfect. Hopefully that sorts it out. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yes. So by our nature, we do sort of, we're an on-trend product, I suppose, because candles done something completely different. So we've taken it right down, that it can make retailers nervous to begin with, but as soon as they realize that going against the grain catches people's eye on a shelf, and as soon as people see a Hertfordshire candle on a shelf, they think, oh my God, I have to smell that. What does Hertfordshire smell like, for example? So yeah, it's definitely worked to our advantage. We've doubled down on it, and we've really leaned into being different, and it's paid dividends for sure for it, and you have to execute it well. And yeah, it's exciting to be different.
Absolutely. And Jack, how about you? How have you found? Is this something that Paper Plane consciously does, or what's your experience with this?
Yeah, I'm thinking of specifically of greeting cards. You see a lot of trends come and go, and you become very aware of them through social media. So we've seen things like flamingos, or pineapples, or pugs, or unicorns, or marble, or a terrazzo, and some of those things we've incorporated and some we haven't. And I think the ones we've incorporated are the ones that we feel would tie in with our brand, that we wouldn't have to shoehorn them in and that it would feel awkward, or the things that we have liked ourselves, you know, the things that resonate with us. And I think it's very well, it's fine to follow trends, because that's where sales probably are. And I think if you get in early, that's great. But I think if there's a trend that is established and there's a lot of stuff out there, you really risk being lost. Unless you know that your version of that is superior or has a unique twist on it, I think just doing it for the sake of it, you really do risk just melting into the background and not standing out. So I would say definitely, as Teresa said, just keep an eye on trends. But I would say just use it wisely. And if you have an idea that you think is completely off trend, but you know it's a good idea, then go for it, because people, not everyone wants to buy what everyone else has. Some people want something that is unique and different to the crowd. So there's definitely room for both.
100%. Alicia, what's your take on this, as someone who sees so many brands on a day-to-day basis?
So from my side, I would say one of the most important things always comes down to like knowing your customers, and this is something that we experienced on Creoate, indeed, by selling like so many products. There, over the past 2 years, there have been like some products that were like temporary trends, like they maybe went viral over social media and the trend really lasted for like a couple of months. While on the other side, there are trends such as products that are eco-friendly, which those are trends that are going to stay. They're trends that are intended for the long term. So, as a brand, if you have the capacity, it's definitely good to test it out. If you have the capacity to produce more products in order to do things that maybe in terms of like colors, patterns are very specific for a season, for a trend, it's always good to test. But you should also be very quickly in realizing, does this resonate with my customer? Because there is really no point in spending like time, resources and effort in making something that does not resonate with your customer. And from what I've seen at Creoate, this applies both in terms of product themselves, but also in terms of purchasing channels. So something that, for instance, it's very trendy now for like Gen Z is TikTok. But at the same time, if your customers are not Gen Z teenagers, probably you want to spend more time in promoting your products on your website or on other social media instead of on TikTok. So I think, it always comes down to knowing very well what are your customers, being able to have a lot of data on a daily basis, analyze your data and understand when you can keep going with a trend and when it's time to let it go, because it just doesn't work well for your brand, for your products, or for your website.
Thank you so much. And Jay, did you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, for us, for me, what I think is the trends is like finding a marketplace like even Creoate is a great opportunity for us, and that's something that what I have to do is follow the trends and make sure to find the marketplaces that we could show our lines to. So I think a lot of people miss the leads that they have, and how the markets are always shifting and the new marketplaces that just being created. So for me, trending is to follow up with the market and see where the market is going, and finding new marketplaces just like Creoate and other opportunities that we see to showcase our products to retailers, and and follow the lead. A lot of people look at the lead and they just don't think much of it, but I always try to go after the lead as much as I could. So finding Creoate is something that I'm really thankful, because that's also another trend that I think it is for the fashion industry will follow. And so, yeah, I think that's what I think of trends.
Thanks so much. Yeah, it's interesting to think about trends more at the sort of buying level as well. Great, thank you all so much. So next up, this is my curveball question. I've just put it out there. What's something that's recently surprised you in retail? Hannah, I'd love to come to you first for this, not to put you on the spot.
Right, that's fine. I've turned off my camera, but hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah.
So as I said, we've just gone through a process of actually reaching out to all of our retailers, sort of pre face-to-face trade shows and also through platforms like Creoate. Just to touch base, obviously we hope that everyone had a really busy Q4, so I think it's a good time to just sort of reach out to people. And we've been pleasantly surprised actually with the optimism from retailers. I think retailers are really keen to get new products in, change out product lines that they might have had, that they sort of maybe struggled to shift during the pandemic and everything like that. So yeah, we've just been really, there was a real buzz, particularly at Spring Fair, but at Top Drawer this week. And again, went through emails and reaching out to retailers. And yeah, it's just really nice to feel that optimism with seeing that sell through in store is fantastic. So yes, long may it continue in 2022.
Absolutely, that's really great to hear. Yeah, such positive feedback going into the year. Jack, is that something, well, tell me about something that's recently surprised you.
Yeah, I've been trying to think of this one, and because it's not what I'd like to talk about isn't really a surprise because it makes a lot of sense. But it's a pleasant surprise that so many retailers have embraced online marketplaces. Because it felt like for a long time the trade show was king, and if you weren't at a trade show, then you weren't seen to be successful. Maybe when we first started doing trade shows, people were telling us, other exhibitors were saying, "Oh, you need to do 5 or 6 or 10 shows and be seen here before anyone will buy from you, before they'll trust you." But we found that certainly from our point of view, the people who were buying from us, the small independent gift shops. The people running them are the people buying for them. So they know what their customers want and they know what will sell for them. And I think in the past, trade shows was perhaps a haven for reps to be walking around, reps and agents doing deals and getting the same product spread out into hundreds of stores across the country. And that's why Creoate particularly is perfect for the small independent retailers who want something different from everyone else, and they know exactly who they're buying for and what will fit well in their shop, and they've got so many thousands of products they can browse and order in probably in smaller quantities than they would have to with a big retailer, a big wholesaler. So yeah, I think the fact that when lockdown came and more people were forced away from trade shows to online marketplaces, I think so many of them experienced that for the first time and they are sticking with it because it's worked for them. And I think it's going to be a strange time for trade shows because they're going to lose a lot of their business to the online marketplaces. But I think eventually it'll even out and they'll be able to exist side by side. But I think for the next couple of years, it will be really interesting to see what happens there.
Great. Obviously that's lovely for us to hear you say that, and I completely agree that it's great that retailers have embraced that shift. Jay, how about you? What's something that's surprised you in retail recently?
Recently, just people are not buying really as much as we expected. One thing so one thing that we're actually really surprised in fast fashion, January and February and March are pretty much one of the busiest seasons with the pre-orders, and we even go up to fall season now. But the one thing that surprises us the most right now is that people are not buying as much as we would expect them to do so. And I don't know if it's because of the fashion, like Facebook Lives and Instagram Lives of other ways of selling merchandise, but we would definitely want to see this come back for the retailers to shop more. But right now, I think in fast fashion industry, I think we're just kind of on the downside right now. So that's what's surprising for us.
Oh, sorry. sorry to hear that. It's not quite as enjoyable a surprise. But that's really interesting. So you think it's to do with the fact that people are buying more products directly, and boosted by social media? Yeah. Sorry, just checking I wasn't on mute. And Therese, how about you? What's something that surprised you recently?
Mine very much is similar to Hannah's. Like Spring Fair was so busy. It was like I have not seen Spring Fair like that for many years. There were stands where people were queuing to buy, which
Wow.
was great to see. And it hasn't felt like that for a long time. Obviously, that's not everyone's experience, but there were certainly stands like that. Harrogate was the same, last summer. But and also, like Hannah said, like people were enthusiastic. Every January, February kind of show, you get people moaning and being just negative about how Christmas has been, basically. And they like to, express how disappointed they are. But actually, I had no one moaning about it at all. Everyone was just so excited to be back and really enthusiastic about things. Like at Spring Fair, I was helping with the Gift of the Year judging, and I was interviewing some of the retailers, and they were just so happy to be back to physical show. And they have embraced the online buying and stuff, but certainly like the people I spoke to, they kind of see it as two things that needs to coexist, because they said one lady said she had definitely done some like buying blunders when it comes to size, where she thought, oh, I'll order this many of this Christmas product, and a pallet showed up because it was like 10 times bigger than she thought it would be. And, little things like that maybe don't get online. So I think that, the kind of feedback was that you need both. So I wonder if trade shows will be smaller and platforms will fill that void, and kind of you deal with your retailers through the platforms in between shows, but that show still has their place, I think. And that there will be this, like Jack said, like this happy coexistence, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. That lines up with Jack and I were talking on this call before about how nice it was for people finding it so great to catch up in person after obviously a couple of years of not being able to do so. So completely agree with that. Guys, that brings me on to my final topic for today. And by the way, I've seen some questions I think coming through. I've left some time hopefully for questions straight after this, but I really love to end these events with some really actionable advice for the brands and retailers who have joined us today. So I'd love to come around and quick fire to each of you for you to give one thing that you'd suggest brands do today to future-proof their business. So I'm going to come to Jack first, if that's okay.
Yeah, if I knew, I'd do it. But I would say that if you've got one hero product that is selling well and consistently sells well and you're very proud of, it can be tempting to try and push everything else to reach that level. But I would suggest that just get behind that product and sell as much of it as you can and promote it as much as you can, because the more that gets seen, the more exposure that gets, the more people will find your other products naturally. So if one product's already done all that hard work for you and is getting found, get behind it and let that be the beacon that draws people in.
Fantastic. And Therese?
I think that sustainability is, it's not going to go anywhere. So I think that even if you're not a sustainable brand, everyone is going to have to figure out how it fits in with their business and their values and how they communicate that. Because I think that, even a few years ago, when I was actually selling, people would phone up and say, I want plastic-free delivery and all that. And that's obviously really important now. So I think it's really important for brands to continue to do changes to be more sustainable, even if they're not a sustainable brand, you know, to know where you fit in with that. We can all do a little bit, right? Like print less invoices and email them instead, and do these little tweaks. And I think that brands really want to, like stockists really want to hear about what you're doing, what part you're playing in it, because the end consumers wants to know. So I think having that transparency there is really important, and working on how you communicate your story, whatever that story is, because I think story-led and value-based brands is really what we're going to see retailers continue to want for a while still.
Awesome. Yeah, I spend far too much time reading the About Us pages on all of your brands. I love it. So completely agree with that one. Jay, what about you?
The only thing that I can really think of is to hustle, really, because we don't know what it's going to be like later. So we could only do so much at this time. So if you have a lead, call them. If you have trade shows, attend them. That's what I tell everybody in fast fashion industry, where if you have your employees just sitting around, just ask them to call people, start calling people, and just hustle every day. And that's honestly the only thing that we can do, and follow all the leads that we can. And honestly, that's the way I see it. That's the only future proof there is, because you know, just do whatever you can right now, and because that will return later. I think the phone call that you make today will return a year later, but it will come back to you, and it'll help you out, you know, sales wise or feedback wise, and just do whatever you can do, and you know, if you do everything you can do, the results will come back to you down the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I know how much hard work you guys put into running your brand, so that completely makes sense. Hannah, how about you?
So it's been touched on, but I definitely think that telling a story, either your brand story or the story that your products tell, is only going to get more important. But I actually read a really interesting book, and I promise I'm not being paid to plug this at all, but there's a book called Building a Story Brand, and it was a really interesting take on, it's by Donald Miller, and it's how you can tell a story, but not just a one way, this is my story. It's how that product will be used by your customer. I know it's all that features and benefits thing, but telling a story in a way that relates to your customer, and your customer goes, oh, that's my story too. And it's not just, you know, burn a candle in your home. It's lighting this candle is taking 5 minutes out of your day to do something for you. And it's all that sort of stuff. And I just think that's just going to become more and more important. So yeah, telling your story, and not just telling it once, but like littering it through everything that you're communicating is going to become more important.
100%. Thank you so much, Hannah. And Alice, how about you?
So from my experience at Creoate, I would say, like, make sure that if you're a brand, you produce unique products, and if you're a retailer, you stock unique products. And when I talk about unique products, it's not that you have to come up, you know, with like very weird ideas. Even if you make candles, you make soaps, find something that people can easily identify it's your brand. You know, we have on this webinar Jack and Hannah, and your products are among the best-selling products at Creoate because they're very unique. So whether they're candles, you have very unique fragrances, you sell soaps, etc., but you have a very special and a very unique packaging. So uniqueness of products is certainly one thing that can help brands, you know, like future-proof their businesses. And at the same time, if you're a retailer and you have a brick and mortar store, like make sure that you stock products that are very unique and hard to find. Because nowadays, you know, everyone from their home, they can just go online, and you have thousands of websites available where you can shop if you're looking for something simple or something basic. So when a customer walks into a store, they really need to find something that it's unique. And in that case, customer as well as retailer, they're happy also to pay, you know, maybe like a higher price, because they know that the products they're purchasing is unique. Otherwise, if you don't really have unique products, it just becomes, you know, like a price war, and unless you sell your products for very good prices and low prices, it's not your business is not going to be future ready.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. I love those points. Let me now, that's the end of the topics I had for discussion. So I'm going to now open the floor to some questions. Let me see if there's any in the chat already, if I can work out how to see them. Okay, Iris has asked, how many seasonal changes / collections do you guys currently see to be a good strategy per year for home and living? Would anyone like to pick that up?
I can go if no one goes. So, I mean, traditionally, most people have probably done 2, but I've definitely seen a move to releasing products whenever they're ready. During the pandemic, that's how a lot of brands did it. I do think it really depends on what retailers you want to target. If you target independent retailers that buy little and often, that works really well. So if that works better for you, then you can do that. But if you are someone that wants to, you know, supply the bigger retailers, then they buy so much more further ahead that I do think it's worth being more organized and maybe stick to the kind of Jan, Feb, and then July onwards for your product launches, so that you don't miss out, basically.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sherry. That's a great response. Does anyone else have any questions? Just leave it for a moment. Or does anyone else have... Oh, Jack, sorry, you go.
I've got a question.
Yes.
It's for Hannah. What does Hertfordshire smell like?
Hertfordshire smells like woodland, bluebell and jasmine. So the Ashridge estate is really famous in the spring for its bluebells, and it literally has like carpets and carpets of bluebell woods, and lots of people go there for walks, and it's like a really famous spot for photography. And it happens to be just down the road from where we started making all of our candles from home in Hertfordshire, and we'd always go there in the spring for a walk. So yes, it is a woodland, bluebell and jasmine for Hertfordshire.
Nice.
Nice. I want the Norfolk one, because I think that's a lavender one, isn't it?
Yeah, Norfolk lavender. That's a lovely one. It helps you sleep, lavender too. So it's multi-pronged, that one. But I'm going to stop plugging myself now.
Great. Did anyone else have any questions or any final thoughts from the panel? All good. Great. In that case, that just leaves me to thank everyone who's attending today. As I said at the beginning, we will send out a recording of this so you can rewind it if you've missed parts of it. But most of all, thank you so much to all 5 of you who've joined on the panel today. I'm going to get neck ache from having been nodding along so much and smiling along so much. So thank you so much, all of you, for joining and sharing your thoughts. It's been really great to hear from you.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
so much, everyone.
Yeah, hope to see you all in the next one. But
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.